nervous system regulation, you can be in a state of like, we call it that anxiety, if you will, when you're wired but tired, you're waking up, but you can't fall asleep at night, those types of things. You are in sympathetic overdrive. And so you're in like fight or flight in your body. And when that happens, digestion shuts down, hormone regulation becomes much slower, it's impaired. And those are the foundations of metabolism, of burning fat, for building strength for your muscles. And so when you're in a constant state of like hyperactive and activation of your nervous system, you don't give your body time to find that balance so that you can get stronger.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Talk Your Abs Off. I'm your host, Abby Clapper, and today I am joined by Megan Canell, who is the founder of Rhythm Wellness. Megan helps women in leadership and healthcare to regulate their nervous systems through fitness-based modalities and somatic practices. And if you're like me, you might not know what somatic practices are, and that's what we're talking about today. So welcome, Megan. I'm so glad you're here.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you to everyone listening to this episode. I'm super excited to be here. Thank you.
And we're so excited to have you. This podcast is really, most of our listeners are female, and this helps males as well. But this is really great, especially as we focus on like what your niche and practice really is. Yeah. I think it's something that can be really beneficial that a lot of people might not think about. And I'm so stoked to dive into it.
Yes, me too. I'm very excited to talk about it. I'm like, it's definitely a little different than anyone I think is used to.
For sure. And we definitely haven't covered it on this podcast. So I am so thrilled. And I want to get into your background a little bit. So you started as an RN, is that right?
Yes, it is.
And how long were you doing that?
So I was an RN. I still am a registered nurse. I've been a nurse for, it will be 9 years this summer. So we're going on, almost a decade of nursing, and all of that experience prior to where I am now has come from the operating room. So definitely its own specialty within nursing as well.
Wow. Yeah, that's intense.
Yes, absolutely.
And so the things that you saw in the healthcare system, what did you see there that really made you pivot now towards more fitness and somatic work?
This is a great question. So I think the biggest thing that I was seeing is starting to just like make connections with different patients, is that everyone is coming in a disease state, right? And we know that we have certain things to do with emergency medicine if it is at that point. But what are we doing to prevent those things? So I started looking at, we're treating it after the problem has occurred, if you will, or waiting till there's a catastrophic event to seek treatment. And there's no one really talking about what we do to prevent those things, right? You hear it and it's kind of like, well, they want a quick fix. They don't want to do it themselves, but there's just a knowledge gap that they don't have, they just haven't been taught it. It's not even that I would say knowledge that they can't learn it either. They absolutely are so capable of learning it, but no one is teaching those foundations, for how to regulate your own body.
That's a really good point. And you bring up something that I've thought about in the past, and I used to talk about this all the time because it was so frustrating. When we think about like when someone gets sick, this is exactly what you're talking about. We go to the doctor and there's all these things that like after the fact we have to take care of. But it's like when we in the fitness space are working with people, we're helping people lower their blood pressure. We're helping people lower their cholesterol, all of these things without having people getting on medication. Nothing would make me more mad than when I was like, number one, we should be being paid more because I feel like we're doing like the pre-work. Now I also understand like I'm not a nurse, I'm not a doctor. So like, I'm not the one who's going to end up treating those things, but it would make me so mad to no end that it was like, we're literally preventing these things.
Yes, we are. And that's the thing. It's just the same spectrum, right? One side versus the other, but like fitness. And this is what got me kind of like into fitness and stuff. It's like, we need just as much coaches out there, trainers out there, people who are educated in this space about preventing the disease, because now you're fitting one population of people, and now there might be half of that amount of people that need treatment on this end, right? So it's like you're more of a balance versus the doctor needs to do everything and then putting trainers and coaches us over here, right? Where it's like that doesn't affect the person at all, when that's the foundation so that the person doesn't get over here.
Exactly. Yes. Okay. I'm so glad you touched on that. Had left my mind. I forgot about that until you said it. And I was like, that used to make me so mad and still does.
Yeah, no, totally. I love that question too, because very much what I'm trying to do. And part of my practice basis is like bridging those gaps there. And I say this the same with like Eastern and Western medicine. We need both of them. We need
Mhm.
all of it to come together. There's a time and a place for one, and there's a time and a place for other. So I love that you asked that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, okay, somatic conditioning is something I've heard the word somatic like in the past. I have a very
Yes.
broad understanding of it, but can you just define that in simple terms for people who might not have heard about it before?
Yes. So the simplest way to explain somatics is mind body connection. Okay. So being able to close your eyes or not, right? But bringing your awareness to a particular part in your body and having it do what you want it to do. Okay. And so when I teach somatics right here, conditioning is we use exercise to be able to train that system. So somatics is coming into awareness in your body of a stimulus and being able to regulate that stimulus versus having no idea what to do with it. And then in turn, like a slew of other things start to happen down the rabbit hole here. But the biggest, most base way of saying it is mind body connection. Mind body connection.
I love that. And I think, especially as a trainer, it's so important to have that mind body connection because and this is something that I actually work with clients who are neurodivergent who maybe haven't
Yes.
made that connection in their bodies before and like where their body is in space and
Mhm.
helping people like if we're doing a deadlift and I say, "Oh, where are you feeling this?" and they're like, "I don't know, my upper back." And it's like,
Yeah.
"Well, maybe we are probably doing it wrong then and we need to find a new way to do it or explain to get your body in space to find like that right
Yes.
form that we need to be in." Do you experience that a lot with your clients?
I do, and I love that you're touching on this because what I was gonna say is I like to use a lot of analogies and I
Mhm.
try to meet this is where I try to meet them where they're at. I'll use an analogy and we'll try it like 1 or 2 reps, right? And they're still not getting it. Well, it's like, that's not for you. That's not your analogy, right? To make it click. But we try to find like where that is for them to kind of get that understanding, that same motion or feel in their body. And it's crazy because as soon as you do bring them to that place of something else they've experienced, right, with movement, all of a sudden they are feeling it oh, now I feel it right in my hamstrings or in my glutes where I want to feel it versus my lower back. It's kind of fascinating to see when people make those connections too, because it's like you just weren't thinking about it again in a certain way. And now you have those capabilities to bridge those gaps and make those connections, right? You do understand it. It's just looking at it from a different angle.
Yes, and I love that you think about it that way, and I think as especially as, like, personal trainers, we need to be able to find many different ways to explain something. Now, what's your favorite analogy that you like to use?
I use a lot. Who is bringing a paper plate into the ocean? I don't know why, but I use this a lot for like shoulder movements or doing like a front raise. I always say take your paper plate and scoop it through the water as you raise, like you're thinking about
Mhm.
the dumbbell, because that resistance you're going to feel as you come up is going to be much different than like a tight pinching in your shoulder, if you will, or based on how I move the wrist. So I use the paper plate analogy a lot, or pushing like treading through water, because I feel like that gives that resistance feel, if you will, based on the thickness of the water, right? So, like, are we in the
Yeah.
ocean? Are we in a little creek? Like, it's a tiny little river that's going to be much lighter, right? I like to use that's like my staple one that I like to use because I think it is the most common for people to kind of get the first time I use it, right? And then once I kind of see how they use that, right? How their brain starts to work with that, then I almost break them. Now I'll be like, okay, this analogy might work for you. I'll start thinking about what they do in their life. I have a client that works on a farm, right? So horses or riding her horses or doing stuff in her barn. I use a lot of analogies for that because that just makes sense to her. And I'm telling you, after the next rep, she's feeling it. She's feeling it.
I love that. I've never heard that one, actually. That's a really good one. And I heard
Yeah.
another one over the weekend. I went and did like some beach yoga. And I'd
Okay.
never been with this group before. And we were talking about posture and we were sitting and she called like basically the bowl of your pelvis, kind of where your pelvis sits, like your
Yeah.
flower pot, and that you don't want to like dump out like your flower pot. And I
Oh,
thought that
that's
was
such a
so
beautiful
good.
that's a
Right?
great way. Yeah, that's a good one. I
Yeah.
love that.
I know.
Did
I
you have
thought that
such a
was
good time at that?
it
Because that
was
sounds
so
just like it was a
good.
good
Oh,
experience.
it was, and then when we were talking about posture, it was like the flower, like, growing out of the flower pot, and I was like, "This is actually, like, so nice," and I 'cause I always forget even, like, if we
Mhm.
think of our pelvis as, like, like a bowl of water is one that I forgot. And I
Yeah.
was like, that's such a good thing to get people, whether you want them to tip it one way or the other, where do you want the water
Yes.
to go? I think that's a really good one too.
It's a beautiful way to say it, is like a flower pot. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
definitely gonna start sprinkling that in here and
right.
there because that's a very good one. And I'm always using bloom. Like I'm always telling women they're blooming
Mhm.
into like their own
Yeah.
garden, however they want it to be. So I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
That's so sweet. Yeah, absolutely. Now, part of the somatic conditioning that you do, you talked about regulating your nervous system. What does
Yes.
a dysregulated nervous system look like?
So this is a great question. I'm like, oh, the questions are great, right? But this is really good too, because a lot of people think it's just like, oh, I'm anxious or my mind is racing, right? But it shows up in so many other ways that we don't even realize. You're wired at night, but you can't fall asleep. And now you're super tired in the morning. Or you lay in bed at night and you fall asleep super easily, but now you're waking up at 3 a.m. because that just like internal alarm wide awake, right? Your digestion is messed up. I messed up is not a great way, but you're dysregulated, right? Your gut is dysregulated. You have hormonal issues. People deal with acne and just dry skin, flaky skin. These are all like little signs of underlying. PCOS is a great one too. I love to work with women that have this and deal with this because there is such an underlying tone of the nervous system that needs to be addressed that we don't necessarily look at. And that's a huge piece. Yes, nutrition, of course, and your metabolism and all these things. Yes, those are so, so important. But the nervous system is also such a foundational piece where we're constantly on go and we need to slow things down so they can do what they want to do. And then there will be a time to, come back up. But it's got to slow down a little bit. So yeah, those are just some ways that I see it that a lot of people don't necessarily realize, right? But it does tie back to that and how we're like our regulation is just how we're finding that balance inside.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much going on in a dysregulated nervous system from what you're talking about. Like
Mhm. Yeah.
it can present in so many different ways.
Yes.
Um, so how, because I'm, even just thinking
Yeah.
about like a lot of times I work with people who are neurodivergent and
Mhm.
even like, not being diagnosed neurodivergent, I have I'll have like issues with my gut on occasion or like my
Yeah.
anxiety and stress are really high. But then you add on the piece of having like a neurodivergence that really takes you out and away from like your centered space. How can something like somatic conditioning kind of bring them back and like just make them feel like a little bit more centered in their body?
Yeah, making them feel more centered. I love this because I think the biggest place is like there's no right or wrong answer. And definitely with people like neurodivergency and being anywhere with a spectrum is you don't have to be one way. It's whatever is best for you, right? So sometimes we're trying to force ourselves into a box when that is the first step almost is just allowing whatever is happening to be, right? And just analyzing that, becoming aware of what your patterns or even are, just like getting to know you, right? What is home for you? Because then you'll start to notice where you're feeling a little off, where the balance is coming from. And I think a big thing with neurodivergency is, and like I'll use ADHD for example, like there's a lot of stimulation there, okay, and a lot of just bouncing pieces. You got to move the energy. And so somatics right here, this is beautiful is well, yes, we would work on breath work as an assessment and to just see where you are in your body. But then, like, that person may be someone who works better with like a more hit training base or a boxing base in a moment, right? In a certain place, right? Within their week to week. Because what happens is too is there you're burning so hot and you're going for so long that there's eventually a crash here, right? So this is where you learn where your limits are and where you put that energy in, right? So now I go into a little bit deeper. We talk about hormonal cycles and all of this. But when you start to listen, you'll have a time where I like to use this a lot with business women is you're at the desk all day and you're answering phone calls. You're doing all the things on the emails. Your mind is racing all day. You haven't got up at all besides to go to your lunch break for 30 minutes. You got to move that energy. You need the hit. You need the boxing. You need something to discharge all that energy. Now, let's say you were in the office, but you didn't sit down at your desk at all. You were meeting here over to this place. I had to run down the street, right? A couple of blocks. You need just the breath and to stretch and to like come back into that body, ground yourself a little bit, right? And it's meeting yourself where you're at. And sometimes we also want to fight that feeling, right? And that's where just giving space and not like, I always say that this is never punishment. Like it's just meant to meet you where you are and to grow right here, bloom, right? Bloom into
Mhm.
whatever you want your garden to look like that feels good for you. Like this is home and this is your body And I wish more people knew that. And like, don't force something. Don't try to force yourself into a box that's not meant for you. Like your garden is beautiful, right? We'll say garden instead of box, but like it's so beautiful and like let it bloom however it wants to be. And it's just like one step in front of the other, one day at a time, and meeting yourself where you are in that current moment versus again trying to force yourself into a place you're not at.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I love this so much. And the way, for the audience that's listening, the way that Megan and I connected, we met at a podcasting conference,
Yes.
and we found out that we are both trainers who, we are not cookie cutter trainers. We meet our clients where they are. We understand that every client is different. And Megan, that's something that I love so much about getting to talk to you about this, because we both understand that every client is going to need something different. And like you
Yes.
just explained, like some days are going to be, they need something more, and some days
Yeah.
they just need less and they just need to be.
Yeah.
And that's totally acceptable and okay. And there are so many trainers out there who are so cookie cutter, and if you're not doing it this way, you're doing it wrong, and you better find a new trainer or buck up and just show up. And unfortunately, in this day and age, I feel like we know so much more, and we
Yeah.
need to just be more like caring and understanding about where our clients are day to day, because not everyone can be go, go, go every single day. I don't do you, I'm
Yeah.
assuming you've seen that too.
1000%. And even my own experiences, right? Like right here, I was a travel nurse for a long time. And there was a year I do remember I never took a week off because I just blocked off my days like 1 week and 1 week. And it's like burnout central, sister. Like they were just pushing too hard. And yes, I am a multifaceted woman and I can do the things, but I also need to allow myself space to recharge, is what I like to say, how I like to say it, right? Like whatever I need in those moments, it doesn't mean that I'm slacking off, if you will, or however you want to look at. Like I'm allowed to have that, just like every other person in this world is allowed to recharge and what their body needs, you know? So if I want to give that to other people, like I also have to, respect myself and give that back to myself too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm wondering if we can shift a little bit into talking
Yeah.
through your own experience, because I know you
Yeah.
shared a little bit about kind of what you went through, with your own physical challenges a little bit
Yeah.
before. Was this before you got into somatics, or was this around the
This
same
was
time?
before this was kind of what led me into somatics, to be completely honest. Like it was I'm someone that's always been I will walk it before I'm going to talk it or try to teach it to someone else, like embodying it, right? Like actually being it. And I started this journey probably end of 2021, 2022, where I started to like really do it for myself. I competed in bodybuilding, and so my goals even shifted. Like it's just been such a beautiful, like this life is so awesome. It's so great to just learn and grow. But I was at a place where I was doing bodybuilding. I was working those travel contracts like I told you. I would get up at 3:30 before a shift to go work out, like not even getting my full 6 hours of sleep max maybe at a time. Burnout central. I did my shows that year. And then I was like 2 months into a reverse diet, which is supposed to be where everything starts to turn back on. It starts working well, right? And I was in such a push, push, push that I was like, something's not right here. So I went to the doctors, and the doctors are just telling me, like, you're just pushing really hard. You're super healthy. Like, that's how it, like, you're female your age. Like, you're just not, I wasn't getting a period. I hadn't got a period in a year. Okay. So now, when it should be coming back, not coming back. Like these are signs for me that definitely trail back. I have previous like GYN things that I dealt with when I was younger. But this was a sign for me that this is not normal, right? And so I had been someone that was on birth control for 15 years. So it should be coming. I should be having a period. I'm on the pill. I'm taking it religiously. Like I was someone who got put on it here really young. And so to me, now knowing what I know with nursing, that's not how it should be. So I stopped it, started doing the practices, right? Started focusing on my breath. I did a few Kundalini healing sessions. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that,
Yeah.
but I did about 5 of those sessions. Wonderful experience for me. I definitely had like a very good experience. So much now that even when I'm feeling a little dysregulated, right? Like tap in, girl. I'm like, just to myself and like to tap into that. But it's so wonderful what I learned, because as I stopped putting pressure on myself, and I kind of this ties back into where you were at before with trainers, I was working with trainers, and not to say anything about my old coach, but that life of bodybuilding is so you have to be the best, you have to push hard. The next option was for me to do growth hormone to become a
Mm,
pro. And it's like, that's not, I'm not getting a period. So, like, that's probably not the best thing to do for my health. Right.
yeah.
And so that's when I really took it into my own hands, especially like I went to the doctors try to get those answers there as almost like a confirmation on more of my nursing side of things, if that makes sense. And
Mhm.
when they were also telling me that that's like fine, I'm like, okay, where is just center and what is actually right for my body? And that's what let me into like mind body connection, listening. Even like I have been practicing it with bodybuilding, but to actually take the time to think about what somatic work is and mind body connection, like such a different layer to do like a deeper, like healing layer of work with this as well. And just navigating your stress and your patterns that you've had your entire life, right? A lot of people will say this is midlife crisis, but like, I was doing some of this work in my later 20s because I was just at a point where I wanted good things. I wanted to be a nurse. I wanted to be doing this, didn't know how that looked. But again, I needed to walk through the healing journey and just like the practices of becoming back connected to my body before I could go out and kind of guide others to do that work.
Yeah, that's thank you for sharing that. That's really
Yeah.
inspiring
Thank you for
and
asking.
yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also really cool because now you can literally say like to your clients, like I went through the same exact thing you did
Yeah.
and I came out on the other side. And now you
Yeah,
get
girl.
to take their hand and like help them through that. And that is one of
For
I think
sure.
the most rewarding things. That's incredible.
It really is because like that is where I think people get the most chew. And yes, we can give everything, but there is a such a different layer of safety right here. What we're trying to give that container, you especially with your clients as well, is like letting them know that this is a place that they can be themselves, right? That is a huge importance to me. And so it's being comfortable with yourself as well and like going through that.
Yeah. Oh, and I bet your clients just feel so loved and cared about. And honestly, they probably feel so much better after working like through some of their stuff with
Yeah.
you. I bet that's incredible.
It really is such a wonderful feeling because for me, it is it's so not ego, right? It's my soul, like
Mhm.
purposeful work, like it's meaningful that I'm always telling them at the end, like, you did this. I didn't even I'm trying to
Yeah.
not even take any credit for it, if you will, because it's like, yes, I guided you through it and I helped you, but it's like you did all of this work. I couldn't do it for you. I'm not there with you every single day to take those steps and make the hard decisions when like you want to do something else because of, just habit, routine, the way you've experienced the world so far. And so to give that to other people, I don't think there's anything that even it could touch it. It's just so wonderful to be able to give people their power back, right? Like
Yeah.
they always had it, but like letting them know, like, you still got it and like turn that thing on, girl.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
reclaim it and take it back for yourself.
Yes,
I love that so
exactly.
much. So now when we're talking about nervous system health, how does that really make a difference in building strength, losing weight, or recovering, or whatever someone's goal is for working out?
Yeah, this is huge. This is so huge and something definitely all the girlies listening to this, right? This is so, so important. Nervous system regulation. You can be in a state of like, we call it that anxiety, if you will, when I was talking about this, but you're wired but tired. You're waking up, but you can't fall asleep at night. Those types of things. You are in sympathetic overdrive. And so you're in like fight or flight in your body. And when that happens, digestion shuts down, hormone regulation becomes much slower, it's impaired. And those are the foundations of metabolism, of burning fat, for building strength for your muscles, right? Like those are the building blocks that you need. And so when you're in a constant state of like hyperactive and you're always in that on activation of your nervous system, you don't give your body time to find that balance so that you can get stronger. You can lose the weight that you want. A lot of times, I love this one with like weight loss, right? People don't even realize like you're eating too little and like you're putting yourself in starvation mode where like your body's trying to protect you. So it's holding on to all that extra fat instead of letting it go because it doesn't think you're going to feed it tomorrow. Or like, that might be a little harsher, like to come out like that. But it's at the end of the day, it also doesn't know that you're not being chased by a lion out in the woods, right? When
Right.
you get beeped at in traffic, like it's no, it doesn't understand that like outsource. And so to be able to kind of find balance and start to regulate your nervous system and do those practices like breath work and just getting back in tune with your body a little bit slower versus pushing and being so hard at it gives it the space to do what it wants to do. It does want to be strong, does want to be supple. And yes, we want a little bit of fat on our bodies as women in our places for hormonal balance here, right? But there's a level and a limit here. And that is just your body's homeostasis. And some people are going to have more and some people are going to have less. But your ability to be able to get to that balanced place that you want is going to start with regulating your nervous system and kind of getting out of that fight and flight and back into rest and digest and just bring it down back to earth, girly.
Yeah. Do you find that there's like a shift in cortisol too when you start practicing somatics?
Yeah, a massive shift. This is so cortisol is like it's so important for like our metabolism function, right? It does so many things in our body, but sleep, like it's not even just with the burning fat, right? It's releasing. It's how your all your hormones are regulating in your body too. It's working with your adrenal, like it's working on such a multifaceted level, and it is our stress hormone, right? And so this is a thing like sometimes we're just it's releasing all the time. When you don't know how to bring that down, you're releasing more cortisol, you're releasing more of it. And when you don't have a place to put it, you're going to hold on to it. And
Mm.
now it's going to give your body like a state of like inflammation and just like activated and just supercharged, right? But then it's not going to do anything that you want to support that like long term. This is where I come back to like disease we see in the hospital is because that is happening so long term that it's been going on like that for like 20 years. Now you're finally like, oh my gosh, I can't ignore this anymore. But it's like it could have been prevented had we have had these tools or like these practices that we were doing in place on like a daily, weekly based routine, right? That we wouldn't have gone to this extreme over here. I like using my
Mm.
hands because I just feel like it's a little table here. I wish I had a graph that I was showing people, but it's like you don't have to go to that extreme. Like going to the hospital, I've heard certain doctors, and this is where I love this, and I don't want to take too much away, but it's like sick people go to the hospitals because like there's something wrong, right? It's like if there was nothing wrong, you wouldn't have to go there. There are people who also haven't been to the hospital in 5 years and they're living their life, and that doesn't mean whatever, but it's like they just are feeling good in their bodies, like they're living their life, and it is based on those like daily practices, the way we take care of ourselves.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and I always wondered about cortisol. I've always heard it, never really done a deep dive because it didn't really mean
Yeah,
much to me and, like, what I did, but,
yeah,
I keep hearing about it, and I'm like, there is something to that's
it
why,
is.
I'm in therapy, and so I'm working on, like, relaxation practices,
Yep.
things like that, just to, like, reduce my stress, but it
Yeah.
makes sense that that cortisol is causing all of that extra, like, inflammation and all that stuff
Yeah.
in the body too, and we do see I think a lot of diseases that we see today are caused by inflammation in the body, so
Yeah,
I think that's
genuinely. I do
yeah,
want to add a little tidbit on that
yeah,
too. If you don't know, crying is never a sign of weakness. Crying is such a beautiful tool that our body does. And why I was saying this is cortisol is released in your tears. So when you're really stressed sometimes and you feel like you just need to cry and like sob it out, kind of, that is your body literally doing what it's meant to do to like help you get out of that just like really stimulated state. It is coming out through your tears. So just a little, for you tip that like crying is not a bad thing. It's a beautiful thing and it's meant to help your body. It's meant to release it.
that's so sweet. I love that you shared that. It makes me feel better
Yeah.
about as someone who's super emotional and,
Huh?
cries a lot, it makes me feel really good about it.
Yeah, we just gotta process and let it out, girl. Yeah, of course.
Oh, I love that. Now, you also touched a lot on, like, the girlies who are feeling really burned out. How do you coach someone who's burned out and still wants to see those results?
Yes. So this is where, again, meeting them where they're at, but let's take that a little bit deeper in that. First basis, you got to know where you are in your own body. Okay. So, like, I would meet them if someone was burnout, very soft flow. Like, let's just see how we're breathing in our body, right? Are we very up in our shoulders and our head type? Are we, probably not in our belly if we're feeling very burned out, right?
Yeah.
Are we breathing heavily, super fast into our chest? Those are just little things that I start to assess. But now it's almost taking the strength training movements. Yes, we go through breath and some more flowy practices, but now it's like kind of where you get to an integration piece of like, how do we start to just work with this? Okay. So, someone coming to me in burnout, I'm going to start them a little bit slow for like a week or two, just so they can come back into their body and know it's safe again. Like, that is the key thing is safety always. Because we're not going to get to the other side, right? If you're just in still constant hypervigilance and like always on like defense mode. So getting into that body, soft practices at first. I'll do yoga movement flows, right? A little bit of Pilates just to start to get muscles working and stuff. And then I dive into strength training. But again, it's not so we're going 4 sets of 8 max reps, right? It's not that. Let's just feel how it feels to do a deadlift, right? Let's see how it feels, like half the amount, 50% weight that you could do, right? Just feeling it. Because again, right there, if we go too hard and you're in a burned out state, we're only continuing that loop of the cortisol, like you were just talking about, stress hormones going off because there is healthy limits for this with like hit and boxing and higher intensity movements, right? But when we're already in a stress state, we don't need to add more inflammation and stress on the body when it's not even at baseline. It's like you just got blown out by a storm and now the tornado's falling right behind it, right? And you didn't even have time to see like the beach dry off type of vibe. And so being able to bring them back into that balance. And then with time, we gradually see, and this is where it's like resistance training. It's not the resistance training, how we know it with like strength training and what I'm meaning by this, but you're training your nervous system in that resistance, right? So you do a little bit more, but we're not going to max out on the threshold here. We're not going to the complete, let's tax it out. We got to have an ebb and a flow here. And then once time, just like you get into that flow, now you can bite off the next goal, right? Now, if like strength training or doing something heavier or doing like a long runs, anything that you could want, right? Where you have to push your body a little bit harder, now is when you approach that. But if you approach that and you're already burned out, you're just going to keep that burnout cycle flowing for until you got to take the pause. And it doesn't have to be that we completely stop movement. We just got to slow it down again so that that body feels safe to move. And then we can start building on top of it.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense, and I also love that you're talking about this because, like, I've had people ask me before, like, "I really like doing, like, Pilates. Can I keep doing Pilates, or do I have to do something else?" And I think, like, that's where, like, the same thing here, it's like, if you're enjoying it and it feels good for your body and it's movement that you're enjoying and that you can fit in to your schedule and like something that you can do from home, whatever. Like
Yes.
I'm all for that and finding like the things that just feel good in your
Yes.
body. I think kind of like you're saying too. And it's not to say that down the road you can't, like you said, add the next thing, like adding more strength
Yeah.
training or whatever. But like if this time and moment is this is what feels good for your body, like lean into it.
Yes, exactly. I think it's about listening to it, right? I found even for my journey, and I don't know how about you, but fitness through bodybuilding and all of it, coming back down to just doing yoga and like very light movements. I like doing a little bit of both, like a hybrid week. There's a functional, there's a strength, like, heavy lifting day. There is a Pilates inspired day. And it's like whatever feels like in the moment, it was whatever. And I didn't know that before because right
Mhm.
here with the push, push, push and go, go, go. And we're looking for chasing perfectionism that doesn't need to be chased because it doesn't exist. Like no one is
Right.
perfect. We're all humans. Okay. And so that and it feels so good and it's experimenting, it's getting to learn. That's kind of where I came from with my practice too in nervous system regulation. Is a lot of people don't know where to start, they don't know, and so they try this one and then they fall off, and now it's a year later because they're like, I tried that wasn't the vibe, I gave an effort, and now it's like, okay, I'm done, and then they come back around because okay, I do want to do something again, like let me try this now. But it's like it doesn't have to be one size fits all. That right there in itself too does become another layer of burnout. I'm not saying Pilates forever becomes burnout, but
Right.
it
Yeah.
goes to strength training or chasing any of those goals. If you do it for years on end and you don't kind of switch it up or give your body something else, right? For that TLC and love, like you're going to bounce off. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway that I'm pulling from this, and it's something that, I preach all the time on this podcast, is just like, just listen to your body. Listen to your
Yes.
body. It's going to tell you more than enough if you just take the time to listen to it and find a coach who's going to allow you to listen to your body. Because like we've
Yes.
talked about, there's coaches who are just going to say like, oh, too bad, keep pushing. When in
Mhm.
reality, if you're doing something, it's uncomfortable. We need to switch it up. And I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that I'm taking away from all of this.
It's huge. It's huge. And being successful, right? And like a client actually achieving their goals. And like also, we do want to help them as long as they need help. But like human beings are supposed to be able, this is where support and community now come in,
Yes.
right? For something
Mhm.
bigger than this. But like they should be able to take care of themselves on like a day to day basis, right? Getting good nutrition and workouts and stuff like that. And not having necessarily to need to be guided because now they do know what their body needs, but they need someone to teach them that because my parents weren't teaching me that even, like I played sports and it was just try something that you like. I
Yeah.
found the things that I liked and here it's gone down the rabbit hole, right? But it's like, that is again, if we just had more choice and like what we wanted to do, but knowing that we can do it. And it's always so not going to be easy always. That's another thing too, is like thinking that exercise, it's supposed to be, that's where some of that stress comes. That's healthy stress, right? Like we do need a little healthy stress in there because that makes that heart strong and lasts for a long, long time. It's so important for your body.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Now,
Yeah.
what is to kind of wrap this all up in a nice little bow,
Yes.
what's one simple nervous system reset that people can try today?
This is so good. So, a little different from like box breathing, but another way that you can breathe is You can open your eyes or close your eyes. I say sometimes when I really need to like ground and not be focusing on anything, I close my eyes, but it's just 2 breaths in your nose and a slower exhale out of your mouth. So it's going to be let that breath come all the way out on the second one. But if you repeat that in a cycle for a minute, you will start to come back into your body. You will start to downregulate, whether you have to do it in an office cubicle in the corner where someone is not at, you have to go to the bathroom. I will tell you as a nurse, I have had experiences, right, where like you still got 6 hours left on a shift. Those things do work. Those things do help because you don't get to just leave because you don't want to deal with it, right? Like you got to still be doing the things and still care for people and just be getting along with your coworkers and all the good things and keeping your just self-centered here. And so breath is it's so powerful. We don't even realize it. And also how you foster the environment around you when you have control of yourself is like the greatest gift that you could give yourself and to the world, because that is your power. You have control of your power and what you want to do with it. And again, like the more you harness it and control it and just, do what makes you feel good inside, you put that right back out to the world in the best ways.
Megan, this is so beautiful. I have absolutely loved this conversation.
Thank you. Me
And
too.
oh, I'm so glad. And I do want to wrap up with one last thing. It's something that I ask all of my guests. This is the portion of the show called Absolution, where, as we know, the fitness industry can be kind of toxic at times. And
Yeah.
I just want to know what one thing is that you think that all of us can collectively absolve ourselves from the guilt and shame of feeling in the fitness industry.
You do not need to look like the person next to you. And what discipline means for one person means something completely different to the next person. And so finding what's important to you and your why behind exercise instead of wanting to compare and look like someone else, that is the greatest disservice that I think a lot of we see on social media. Is so ego ridden and like, king of the castle, look like me, be like me, do this like me. But like, your life is so awesome and you are so awesome as a person, to all of you listening to this, that like, let that be what it is and you keep being who you are and shining. And the person that shows up in the gym and gives their 100% is the disciplined person, not comparing themselves to anyone else, because your journey is so vastly different and is just as important as anyone else's journey. No matter what their goal is, you don't have to have the same goals as them, because that body is not what you would feel good in and your body is not what that person would feel good in. So always just stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself. And again, one step in front of the other.
I think that's the perfect way to end this. Megan, that was great.
This is beautiful. This is so wonderful.
If anyone wants to follow on your journey, see more about what you do, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, Rhythm Wellness TPA. You can also find my podcast, Connecting the Thoughts. That's going to be Connecting the Thoughts on Instagram as well. You can find that on YouTube too. And my email is the same thing, rhythmwellnesstpa@gmail.com.
Amazing. I'm going to go ahead and put all of that in the show notes so that you can easily click over and find Megan and see more about all of the awesome work that she does. Megan, thank you so much for your time today. This was brilliant.
Yes, thank you for having me. Thank you for this conversation. And thank you for being you, girl.
All right, everyone. And we are going to wrap that episode up here. I hope to see you on the next episode of Talk Your Abs Off.